Hare Krishna. We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 8, entitled Manifestation of Brahma from Vishnu. We're on text 16. It's November 9th, 2025. So this is text 16, Chapter 8, Canto 3, Srimad Bhagavatam. There are some books there if you want. Like I didn't write it on the board today. Tasyam Cha Chambo Muha Karnikayam Avastito Lokam Apashyamana Harikraman Vyamni Nivrita Netrash Chatvari Lebhe Nudisham Mukani. And we'll do one line at a time. This is Canto 3, Chapter 8, Text 16. The chapter is entitled Manifestation of Brahma from Vishnu. And these verses are exactly the verses that describe the manifestation of Brahma from Vishnu. Tasyam Sachambo Ruhakarnikayam Avastito Lokam Apashyamana Rikraman Vyomni Vivrita Netra Chatvari Lebhe Nudisham Mukani Tasyam Sachambo Ruhakarnikayam Avastito Lokam Apashyamana Parikraman Vyomni Vivrita Netrash Chatvari Lebhe Nudisham Mukani Tasyam Sachambo Ruhakarnikayam Avastito Lokam Apashyamana Parikraman Vyomni Vivrita Netrash Chatvari Lebhe Nudisham Mukani Tasyam Sachambo Ruhakarnikayam Avastito Lokam Apashyamana Parikraman Vyomni Vivrita Netrash Chatvari Lebhe Nudisham Mukani
Tasyam Sachambo
Ruhakarnikayam
Avishtito Lokam Apashyamanaha
Avastito Lokam Apashyamana
Parikraman Yomi Vrita Nitras
Parikraman Vyomni Vivrita Netrash
Chadvari Leve Nudishtam Mukani
Chatvari Lebhe Nudisham Mukani
Sachambo Vakarnikayam
Tasyam Sachambo Ruhakarnikayam Avastito Lokam Apashyamana Parikraman Vyomni Vivrita Netrash Chatvari Lebhe Nudisham Mukani. Would anyone online like to recite the verse? Okay, so We'll study the word meanings responsively. Tasyam,
Tasyam,
in that.
in that.
Sa, Brahma,
Brahma,
Cha,
and
Amba,
water,
Ruha Karnikayam, whirl of the lotus, Avastita, being situated, Lokam, the world, Apashyamana, without being able to see, Parikraman, circumambulating, Vyomni, in space, Vivrita Netra, while moving the eyes, Chatbari, for, Lebhe, achieved, Anudisham, in terms of direction, Mokani, heads. Translation. Brahma, born out of the lotus flower, could not see the world, although he was situated in the whirl. He therefore circumambulated all of space, and while moving his eyes in all directions, he achieved 4 heads in terms of the 4 directions. So, it's captivating terminology. He achieved 4 heads. We'll delve into that in a few minutes. There's no purport to that text, so I'm going to also read text 17 of Canto 3, Chapter 8. Tasmad yugantas svasana vagurna jalurmi chakra salila virudam upashrita kanjamuloka tatpam natmanamata vidad adideva. Translation. Lord Brahma, situated in that lotus, could not perfectly understand the creation, the lotus, or himself. At the end of the millennium, the air of devastation began to move the water and the lotus in great circular waves. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Lord Brahma was perplexed about his creation, the lotus, and the world, even though he tried to understand them for 1 millennium, which is beyond calculation in the solar years of human beings. No one, therefore, can know the mystery of the creation and cosmic manifestation simply by mental speculation. The human being is so limited in his capacity that without the help of the Supreme, he can hardly understand the mystery of the will of the Lord in terms of creation, continuance, and destruction. Om Ganatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stabitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpata Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, One should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat yuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 8, Text 16 and 17. Brahma, born out of the lotus flower, could not see the world, although he was situated in the world. He therefore circumambulated all of space, and while moving his eyes in all directions, he achieved 4 heads in terms of the 4 directions. Lord Brahma, situated in that lotus, could not perfectly understand the creation, the lotus, or himself. At the end of the millennium, the air of devastation began to move the water and the lotus in great circular waves. Hare Krishna. So a spiritual principle, actually, right, like in Safatobe, we'll have like foundational seminar, advanced seminar, Safatobe 3, like that. And right, literally in the first moments of like the foundational seminar, I'll practically always mention that the spiritual principles, things go from subtle to external. Things go from subtle to external. And right, not from more gross to more subtle, like that. So yeah, so like all of uh, the sophistication of this computer or this watch started from someone with evolved consciousness. There's intelligence behind it, and this, like, rationally, it makes sense that, say, behind the rotation of the planets or the veins of a leaf, which is trillions of times more sophisticated in its organization than this laptop, there must be a very subtle, fine intelligence, and that's what's described in this part of Bhagavatam. It's a story of creation, and it's very natural for spiritual beings having a human experience with a relatively evolved intelligence to wonder about source. And what's the source of the stars? What's the source of myself? Even if we meet someone, isn't it like, where are you from? Oh, yeah, well, I'm from here. Oh, I was there once. And it's just like to inquire about source. It's just like very natural for inquisitive philosophical spirit souls with evolved intelligence. And so, um, mm, yes, in Bhagavad Gita, it's described yam yam vapisman pravam tajitante klevam tam tamevita konti sadata bhavita. So whatever state of being we're absorbed in, whatever state the subtle consciousness is absorbed in, that takes us to the next body. It takes us to the next body. It's the principle of transmigration. Also, chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes Shariram Yadavapnoti Yatshat Krama Ishvara Grihit Vetani Samiti Vayorgandani Vashaya. He says that just as the air carries aromas from a flower or a weed, and the air carries aromas, similarly, the self carries its conceptions from one body to the other. When the gross body is dead, well, but then the spirit soul exists in the subtle body composed of mind, intelligence, chitta, false ego, and that'll take us to the next body. And in that same section of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, Krishna has, I'm not remembering the Sanskrit right now, but then he says, and according to those conceptions, one gets a particular type of nose. It says nose. And that's right there in Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna's talking about what sort of nose we have. It's no accident. We created the particular nose we have. And he says we get a particular type of tongue and eye and ear and tactile sense. According to, it's very subtle, very scientific. Things go from subtle to external. Right, so it's so we're the source of this particular body. So that's the principle here. So Brahma, which is a living entity like us, particularly evolved and devotional and pure, so he has this very highly responsible administrative post in universal management. He's the chief of the demigods, like he's the engineer of the universe. He's not the creator of the elements, he's the engineer of the universe. Okay. And this is all described in this and other parts of the Bhagavatam. In Canto 2 in places, and later in Canto 3 we have Lord Kapila Dev's his discussions with his mother Devahuti that goes even more fully into how the different elements go from subtle to gross, from ether in the sense of sound, and air in the sense of touch and form and fire, and in water and taste and air, and and what water and taste and earth and in the sense of smell. Yes, uh, uh, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the fragrance of the earth. Priti Gandham, Pritivyam Cha, Rasaval Mapsakonti, I am the taste and water. I'm the light of the sun and the moon. Prabhasmi Sasi Suryaya. Like that. So each element we can understand source there, creation there. And so Brahma, so he's a living entity. And so now, according to his consciousness, he's getting a particular type of body. And his body has 4 heads in terms of the 4 directions. In one sense, Brahma's body constitutes the entire universe. And this whole universe, with all of its galaxies, this is described as like one mustard seed. If there's like a huge sack of mustard seeds, this universe is one mustard seed, so it's practically insignificant. Of course, we can make our lives sublime by using it for self-realization and bhakti and devotional service. But just to give some cosmic, or even some cosmic means the universe. We're talking metacosmic here, okay? And so just like, Sarvasya Jaham Ridisa Nivisto, you might say in the microcosmic universe, this body is a universe. Each atom is a universe. And Brahma, he's managing a universe, and that's just one mustard seed amongst material creation. And the whole material creation is just a relatively small fraction of the entire creation. If we go into the spiritual universes, the spiritual planets, Veda cosmology, Veda cosmography. So there's the Kshirodakashai Vishnu, Andantarasta, Paramanochantarastam, within every atom and within the heart of all living entities. So that's an expansion of Krishna, who's the very soul of our soul, the very root of our existence. And then that's like the microcosmos. And then you have the Garbhodakashai Vishnu, who is the super soul of the macrocosmic universe, and that this is the Vishnu talked about here. Brahma takes birth. He appears from the lotus flower stemming from the navel of the Garbhodakashai Vishnu. And then the Mahavishnu, also known as Karanadakashai Vishnu, is the super soul of the metacosmos. So we've got metacosmos, macrocosmos, and microcosmos, and each has a super soul, one of the Purusha avatars. Okay, so Brahma, he just like, like Krishna actually said, that landed with some humor. Krishna talks in the Bhagavad Gita, we get a particular type of nose and tongue. It's very precise. It's no accident, according to the consciousness that we come in with. So Brahma's getting 4 heads to do it, just like we got this particular body, this David Wolf body, and like this Patrick body, and Rukmini and Nina, and we got a particular type of body to fulfill some desires. Now, we get to use this body to fulfill Krishna's desires. And then that's the path of liberation from Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi, from the cycle of samsara, birth, death, old age, disease, to use the nose and the tongue and the money in the bank account and our legs and our hands and our mind, use it in devotional service. Then we're absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and then we're absorbed there. Then we're no longer forced to accept another material body subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. Abhyasa yukta yogena cetasa nanya gamina pusham paramam parta yati partanu chintayan. Krishna says, one who's meditating on me with mind unwaveringly, never forgetting me, undeviated from the past, then one gets a body like Krishna, a fully spiritual body composed of such Chidananda Vigraha, eternity, knowledge, bliss. So that's bhakti, and kind of the whole process of bhakti is to turn ourselves from forgetfulness of the absolute, forgetfulness of who we are as spirit souls, forgetfulness, and to turn us towards experiential deep remembrance of who we are as spirit souls, not the body, servant of the absolute truth. And of course, you might say the cornerstone practice of that, well, there's so many practices. That was so wonderful. We just danced around Tulasi Devi. That's a practice of bhakti, honoring this pure devotee, Srimati Tulasi Devi. And of course, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And studying Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and rising early for Mangalarti. And then more and more we spiritualize this body. Ihayasya haredasya kamarnamanasa giranikilasvapyavastasu jivan mukta sayuchite. This is not a practice of, well, be good now, then go to heaven. We get to experience the bliss of that liberation in this body by engaging the senses. Sarvapati muktam tapratvainame nimalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Bhaktir Uchyate. A name for Krishna is Rishikesh, master of the senses. So when we engage these senses in the service of the master of the senses, under the guidance of a master at it, Srila Prabhupada, then we purify our existence, and we get to experience that bliss that's intrinsic to the soul, awakened to its original nature, right in this body. We don't, not like, again, it's not like suffer now and then go to heaven and then be happy or something like that. So Brahma, he got this particular body with 4 heads because he had a desire to serve Krishna by managing the universe. So he got a particular body where he's like aware of all 4 directions. There's a lot could be said about that. I don't know if we'll go into it so much in detail now. And okay. And then our next verse, text 17, Lord Brahma, situated in that lotus, could not perfectly understand the creation, the lotus, or himself. So he got the body to do the service, and then he's like bewildered. He's like, whoa, this is this fantastic scene. This is this completely fantastic scene. We got a few, just some pictures here. So he's on this lotus, he's looking around. It's high up. He's like, there's oceans drifting sideways and swirling and tornadoes. And then at the end of the millennium, the air of devastation began to move the water in the lotus in great circular waves. So he's like, so he got the body to do the service, and he's bewildered. So sometimes we hear about Brahma in the capacity of a pure devotee. And sometimes we hear about him like in this demigod capacity, like he tried to bewilder Krishna with his mystic power, and it was a complete boomerang effect. And then Krishna was just there eating some sweet with some yogurt, and then Brahma got completely bewildered because Krishna manifested himself as the coward boys and calves and like that. So now Brahma, he's bewildered. So like this is real history from a while ago, billions. The lifetime of Brahma is described as 311 trillion, 40 billion Earth years, and we're about halfway through that. And so this is history. At the same time, we can certainly see it metaphorically, just like the Battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna and Arjuna. That's real history. It's true. It's not. It's just. It's a symbol. Now we can also see it symbolically. What is my Battle of Kurukshetra? Where am I trying to run to the forest and avoid my responsibility in the name of I'll be spiritual? Where am I not picking up my bow and fighting? We can look at what is my Battle of Kurukshetra throughout my life and today. So we can see it metaphorically and get so much value there. Similarly here. So this is really happening. Lord Brahma, out of the lotus flower of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, far out. Maybe some of you heard me back in when Prabhupada came to the West, 1965, and then someone who befriended him there in 66 was Allen Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg, he was a leading intellectual of the beatnik hippie movement. Allen Ginsberg and Jerry Rubin and Abby Hoffman and personalities like that. and so Allen Ginsberg, because he had been to India and he noticed like, oh, this Swami is something special. So he befriended Srila Prabhupada and they developed a friendship. In my dining room, we have the Mantra Rock dance poster in my living room. And the main star was Srila Prabhupada, and the next star was Allen Ginsberg. He introduced Prabhupada. Very interesting, because for the kirtan on the stage, it was in San Francisco. It was at one of the big psychedelic ballrooms in San Francisco, early 1967. And Prabhupada asked Allen Ginsberg to lead the kirtan. Very interesting, very interesting. Yes, there's a video, I've seen it on YouTube, of Allen Ginsberg's appearing on a talk show hosted by William F. Buckley. And yeah, it's amazing. And then, so Ginsberg, he's looking all beatnikish, but he's in this kind of like awkward suit and tie. And he's like being questioned by Buckley. And in the middle of it's on YouTube, at least a few years ago I found it. And in the middle of the conversation, Ginsberg says something like, do you mind if I sing some Hare Krishna? And he pulls out a harmonium. He pulls out a harmonium, like national TV. And William Buckley is known as like a very conservative philosopher, commentator. But Buckley goes with it. He's like, sure, sing Hare Krishna, And so Ginsberg pulls out a harmonium and plays a Hare Krishna tune and sings Hare Krishna. He's just like joyful and smiling the whole time. So Ginsberg was very instrumental in the flourishing and blossoming in the original seed of Hare Krishna movement in the West that Srila Prabhupada brought. And at one point, Ginsberg was interviewed on TV or newspaper about like, so you're hanging out with these Hare Krishnas, those who are chanting Hare Krishna. And then and he said, well, how's this go with the whole tune in, turn on, and drop out stuff? And Ginsberg says, this Krishna consciousness is more far out than any acid trip I've ever taken. Direct quote. And so that, of course, more far out than any acid trip, Ginsberg, he's taken a lot of acid trips. So that attracted many people. And it's true. Even if we, and this whole thing of Brahma born from the lotus of Garbhodakshai Vishnu and like that, and this is one of the relatively tame pastimes of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so that could be just, so must be just some primitive mythology. For me, it had the opposite effect. I mean, I was very slow in my process. It took me 3 years of taking prasad till I was pure enough to start chanting Hare Krishna. But I was reading Prabhupada's books, going back to 1980. And like something churning in me is kind of like, for me, if we're talking about like the pastimes of the absolute, the supreme, the source of all, the supreme person, to me, it makes sense that those pastimes are going to be like way, 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 way more far out than anything you'll get from Hollywood. Any amazing Spielberg or like, and I like Spielberg, I just say, but like it makes sense that it would be more way out of anything I could conceive. So for me, it's like a confirmation. This is not coming from some, ordinary writers trying to, sell his novel and thinking of a story plot or something like that. So Brahma's bewildered, and we can look at, just like we can look at what's my Bala Kurukshetra, how am I like Arjuna? We can look here. Okay, so Brahma's bewildered. He doesn't know how to do his service. What does he do? Take shelter in Krishna. He takes shelter in transcendental sound vibration. He takes shelter. And then he goes deep in meditation on the super soul. Deep in meditation, in self-realization on Krishna. And from Brahma's meditation, we get, just like we heard about an hour and a half ago, the Govinda mantras, the Brahma Samhita. He goes deep in deep prayerful meditation. Krishna, give me intelligence how I can do my service. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pridipurvakam tanami puriyogam taminamam upiyanti te. Krishna says, if one is sincere, I'll give you the intelligence, clarity about your service and how to do your service. Teshamaham. Yes. Teshan evanu kampartam ahamagana jam tamaha nashayam yatma bhavasto gana deepena basvata. Krishna says, I, from within the heart of the sincere devotee like Lord Brahma, I destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance, like that. So that's what Brahma's deep in there, and then from his meditation, he reveals. Denon kvanantam aravinda dalaya taksham barhavatam samasitam buddha sundarangam kandarpakoti kamaniya vishesha shobham govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who was adept at playing on his flute with blooming eyes like lotus petals and head bedecked with peacock feather, whose figure beauty is tinged with the hue of dark blue rain clouds, and whose unique loveliness is charming millions of cupids. Just dozens of verses just emanating from Brahma, in that it's not theoretical, in that realization. That realization. So every verse of Bhagavatam, every verse of Brahma Samhita, it reveals absolute truth, and it's non-different from the truth it reveals, meaning regardless of what we understand or don't understand. It's transformational. It's purifying. And so, Brahman's going, he's entering deep into meditation, into connection with the very source of his being, the very source of all creativity and intelligence. And that's the ultimate factor. In our group facilitator training course, we had recently we had some exchange about clear intention, consciousness in the results. These are terms, principles we play around a lot within subjective courses. So it's described. So there's the whole idea of action and cause. It's complex. It's clear, but it requires quite some intelligence to get into distinguish the different threads. And so, what was the philosopher Hutchins? He said, once we commit, then providence moves. So Brahma's committed. He's going deep into prayer to providence, and then he's getting realization of how to do his service, to create all the bodies of the 8,400,000 species, and etc. And so the Bhagavad Gita, let's say a bit expanded about once we commit, then providence moves. Krishna is saying there's 5 factors as the cause of all action. And one factor is our consciousness. Another factor is the senses. Another factor is the kshetra, the body. Another factor is the quality of the endeavor. And we want to consider all of these and apply ourselves with excellence to all of them to achieve our goal. And the Krishna says, and the ultimate fact, that's a super soul, that's providence. That's the ultimate factor. And super soul providence is reciprocating with the quality of our sincerity, reciprocating through super soul's material energy to the extent that our desires are material, and through spiritual energy to the extent that our desires are spiritual. It's described in Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami, Sakali Ashanta, Krishna Bhakta, Nishkama, Atta Eva Shanta. That as long as we retain any tinge of material desire, it's a guarantee we won't be peaceful. It's like a fish out of water. Won't matter how many years of therapy we do, as long as we retain any tinge of material desire, even if it's desire for mystic powers, siddhi, or desire for impersonal liberation, or just ordinary mundane material desire, or subtle material desire for adoration, distinction, compliments, popularity. I wouldn't belong to the club, profit, money. Of course, a full devotional soul might have billions of dollars. And look, Srila Prabhupada's moving on like through the book distribution. He was bringing in like $50,000 per day in 1970s money. Never used a penny for his own sense gratification, always using it for Krishna. So that spiritual desire. That's like we use money for Krishna, it transforms from money into Lakshmi. Lakshmi is the devotional Shakti of Krishna. And then we just won't be peaceful because it's like the nature of the self is full, enthusiastic, joyful, unconditional, 108% bhakti to Krishna. And then we give ourselves to that dynamic service like Brahma's doing here. And then we have this joyful, dynamic peace with it. Okay. Okay. I'll close here, and then I'll be glad if anyone wants to share any comments, realizations, or ask any questions. I'll read the verses one more time. Brahma, born out of the lotus flower, could not see the world, although he was situated in the world. He therefore circumambulated all of space, and while moving his eyes in all directions, he achieved 4 heads in terms of the 4 directions. Lord Brahma, situated in that lotus, could not perfectly understand the creation, the lotus, or himself. At the end of the millennium, the air of devastation began to move the water and the lotus in great circular waves. Hare Krishna. Okay, so yeah, I welcome it this time. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna.
Bhakti Valerie.
I need to listen to this class like 3 times to absorb everything that you shared.
Hare Krishna.
But I was really blown away when you were talking about the different Vishnus, and I've heard you talk about the different Vishnus before, but again, it's like really hard for me to comprehend or even understand. But during this class, I was feeling mind blown when you were talking about like the super soul of the macro universe, and then like the soul is like where we come from. I forget the wording you used.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yeah, the super soul of the metacosmos, that's the Mahavishnu. Super soul of the macrocosmos, that's Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, which we're reading about here, and the super soul of the microcosmos within our own body, that's Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. It's like Krishna consciousness, it's it's so simple, a child can get it. And it's so infinitely complex, the greatest scholar and philosophical mind doesn't have a chance to even enter into it without the spirit of bhakti.
Mm. Yeah, it was amazing. It was mind blowing to me and inspiring. And um, I kind of had a similar feeling when I was reading this verse last night in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, I think verse 38, talking about Mother Yashoda. And
Mhm.
in the report, Srila Prabhupada said that fear personified fears Krishna, and that just blew my mind.
Mhm.
And then Krishna fears Mother Yashoda.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah. Thanks for sharing that from Queen Kunti's prayers. Yeah, thanks for that. So, but, yeah, it's described in the very first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam that living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed. Can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the name of Krishna, who is feared by fear personified. And Krishna is really scared of Mother Yashoda with her stick. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Bhakti and Valerie.
Hare Krishna.
Bhakti and Rosa.
Hey, Krishna. Oh, I'm gonna wander a little bit in thought, but I'm very inspired by reading about Brahma's bewilderment and how he took a millennium
Yeah,
and still couldn't understand. And so it makes me think of where it says Krishna, I know he's forgetfulness, but
yeah.
he's also remembrance.
In remembrance, Sarvasya Chamridisa Nivisto, Matasmi Chirginama Poanamcha. Text, chapter 15, text 15, Krishna says, I am remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. They all come from Krishna.
And it just makes me think of like, what is my service in this life, right? So the ant on the wall doesn't know that they're in a room,
Yeah.
in a house, in a city, on a planet, right?
No clue.
And they don't care. Like they're just they're doing their duty. And me as a personality, very specifically, my survival strategy has always been semblance of control. And I would drive myself insane trying to understand as much as I could so that way I could feel safe.
Mm.
Let me be the ant on the wall. It doesn't need to know, right? And so anyway, I just feel inspired.
You're feeling inspired. Thanks for sharing. You're getting a perspective on yourself and yeah, like so to get like there's existence light years. There's galactic existence outside of my postage stamp 9 dots. And so let me enthusiastically and responsibly attend to my service here, understanding that there are much bigger things going on. Even this whole universal thing with Garvadakshay Vishnu Brahma, again, that's just one universe, which is like one mustard seed in a whole bag of mustard seeds. And then, that's why we use the term spiritual master. And so like, maybe a more accessible term for many is like teacher, like the term master, just like if we want to get really good at tennis, we'll get someone who's a master at tennis. We get really good at piano, we'll get a master at piano. So Srila Prabhupada, he's fully realized in how to please Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is the first spiritual teacher in our parampara after Krishna. Teni Brahmarita Yadi Kavye. Krishna imparted to Brahma all the knowledge of the Vedas through the Vedas, or the sound vibration of Krishna's flute, which he gave to Brahma's heart. And so Srila Prabhupada, he's fully realized in what's going to be a true service to Brahma and Krishna. and what's a disturbance and a distraction. So I endeavor to, let me endeavor to follow Srila Prabhupada, and then I know I'm pleasing Krishna. I'm pleasing Prabhupada, I'm pleasing Krishna 100%. Yeah. And if I'm doing something that's not pleasing to Srila Prabhupada, then I know I'm not pleasing Krishna like that. And then to the extent that I surrender to that, then miracles unfold, miracles happen. Miracle mean that which is beyond, what I could calculate in any sort of linear, rational sense. Not that this devotional service is irrational. We like to use the term, it's trans-rational or trans-cognitive, to whatever limit rationality and logical empiricist processes can take us. That's all included here. It's included and transcended. I'm remember, just as I know some of you are aware of this part of my life, this was mid-late 80s, early 90s. And just at that time, maybe some of you have seen the book Krishna, Israel and the Druze, an Interreligious Odyssey. And, but just just for some context, and some of you might get the context, some of you might not be so familiar. But okay, so there was I was leading a Sankirtan party in the north part of Haaretz Yisrael, right? Okay, and somehow, I won't get into the whole thing, it's described in the book, but somehow we were going to Arabic villages. I mean, a lot of the Druze villages, the Mohedun, but also villages that would be considered fundamentalist Islam, okay? And, okay, and materially, we were in bodies called Israeli, Jewish, American, okay? And sometimes we would tell others, the villages we were going to, Arabe and Saknin and like that, and they would say you're gonna get a knife in the back, and I mean, it's just stupid, which I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying it wasn't foolishness, but I'm just saying from a material point of view, not just that, the Israeli, American, Jewish like that. It was right at a time, and there was a book written right at that time was called the Satanic Verses, and I'm forgetting the name of the author, but he was Indian-bodied Muslim like that, and it was perceived by the Muslim world as being very, very offensive to Muhammad the Prophet. I'm just for the context here. And so they put whatever, the Ayatollah, whatever, they put a price on his head. No, he needs to die. This is true. So you can look this up on the internet, plenty of books about it. The book was named The Satanic Verses. I'm forgetting the name of the author, but he became very famous at that time. And I think he hid out in England or United States. I think he's still alive somehow. But they put a price on his head. So my point was that amongst that fundamentalist Islamic community, in addition to whatever reactivity there was against Jews, Israelis, Americans, and that sort of thing, there was this thing, anything that was perceived from India was also haram, okay? So from any material point of view, from any material calculation, just it would be expected we'd get harmed or killed. We would go into those, and I was dressed in full devotional attire. Dhoti, kurta, tilak, shaved head, sikha. If I looked like a nice Jewish boy, I'd probably be finished. So looking in full devotional attire, maybe some laughed or were amused, but okay. And So not only didn't we get harmed or attacked, these villages, I'm talking about fundamentalist Muslim, they just like couldn't get enough of Prabhupada's books. We had them in Hebrew. We had some in it. We had the Bhagavad Gita in Arabic, translated by Ravanari, Rava Yunus. He was Palestinian. He translated Bhagavad Gita as it is. And they were just like taking sets and sets of Prabhupada's books. It didn't make any sense. But they just got, so those things, like I was just like, okay, we're doing our service, call it foolish, call it transcendental bravery, whatever. We're just doing our service. And they just wanted, most of them couldn't even read the Hebrew, but they want to make sure their children had these books because they get this is divine. Sometimes this is like one amongst many experiences where kind of from a material calculation this wouldn't make sense, but I'm just going to be like that ant, and my service is to walk the next step and to do this service for Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bhaktin Rosa.
I'll expand on that a little bit further. I saw something that really inspired me. So you were just talking about if you're not pleasing Srila Prabhupada, then you understand you're not pleasing Krishna,
Correct.
right? But we fall short, or we fall down.
Yeah.
And I saw something on the internet about God and how He wants us anyway.
Yeah.
Right? It's not about coming perfect or coming ready or coming understanding or coming any kind of perception of what it is that we should be before Him. It's to come to Krishna exactly as we are. And
Not that we need to be perfect before we can come.
I recently, I mean, like, I don't know what to blame it on, right? Like, I could be rational about it, but I've had a hard time with sleeping too much and eating too much. And as a witness, this changed me. I'm like, trying to rationalize what is going on. Are you okay? Like, is it the weather? Is it the cold? Is it this? Is it that? And I was frustrated. And I watched another talk of yours where were talking about the six Goswamis and how they conquered sleeping and eating. And I was like, that sounds good. Let me look and see what they were doing. And what I understood was they were so involved in their service that they just they slept and ate as much as they needed, and that was it, because they were just busy with their service.
Fully engaged, yes.
Exactly. And I've had tastes of that in my life, but they were like an art project or a gathering or event, and in that time I could, without hurting myself, right, I would forget to eat, or I would go to sleep because I had to, and I would get up quickly because I was so excited about the next thing. And I just feel inspired that I'm not there, nor, how much will I achieve in this lifetime? I'm not sure. But let me try to live a purposeful life where every day is that.
Thanks very much, Bhakti Rosa. And thanks for your sharing, the realizations. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, there's one letter. I've read through the letters of Prabhupada. He wrote like 10,000 letters to disciples. There's the chronological letters from 1947 to 1977. And then there's most of the letters in like what's called the Shikshamrita in 50 different categories. And I said one letter I read recently, some disciple apparently, I didn't see the disciple's letter, but apparently a disciple was like, yeah, I just really messed up big time. And he was very shameful, but humble. Very like, I'm an embarrassing wretch and this and that. And Prabhupada certainly had his times where, it could be really heavy and chastising. But in this case, he said, well, we all have material bodies and stuff happens, and the senses are very strong and like that. And And then Prabhupada said, just okay, let's carry on with enthusiasm, learn from our mistakes, like that, just very loving and accepting. And yeah, that's the principle. It's described about the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Sankya Purvakana Magana Natibi Kalavasani Kritao Nidra Haravi Arakadi Vijitao Chajanta Dina Jaya Radha Krishna Gunasmiter Maturimanandena Samohitao Vande Rupa Sanatana Ragu Yugao Sri Jiva Gopalaka, that they conquered over sleeping and eating through smart goals. It actually says that it's because the first Sankhya means to count. Okay. And so it's essentially, it says by being very rigorous and giving numerical commitments about japa, about offering obeisances, and then so just being so so fully engaged. Prabhupada would say they would maybe eat consume a few drops of buttermilk per day, maybe rest 2 hours per night, and Prabhupada would say 2 hours per night, and he said, and sometimes they would forget to do that. And that's Krishna's in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. Krishna says, Vishya vinibartante niraharasya dena rasavajam rasopyasa paramjishta nibartate. Krishna says, we're generally not going to give up a lower taste unless we have a higher taste to replace it with. Otherwise, willpower is limited. As the saying goes, nothing inspires more confidence than the first 4 hours of a diet. Just leave that one there. Okay, so the Goswamis, Srila Prabhupada is also completely like that. They have such a higher taste that I'll take care of eating and sleeping the minimum to keep body and soul together, to use the body in devotional service. So such a taste, getting the higher taste there. I see a chat here. What is the definition you give for self-realization, enlightenment? Okay, well, sometimes the definition I give, consistent with Srimad Bhagavatam, Tate Nukampam, Susamikshimano, Bhujana Eva Makritam Vipakam, Vivagya Probir, Vitadanamaste, Juvete Yo Mukti Pade Sadayabak. Who speaks that verse? Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma speaks that verse. Canto 10, chapter 14, text 8. That's right after he got bewildered by Krishna. He was trying to steal the cows and play a trick on Krishna. He got bewildered, then he realized, okay, this isn't just some pesky cowherd boy who's annoying and falsely proud. This is my Lord and Master Krishna. So then Brahma comes down, and that's one of the first prayers he offers. So the way I define it is to, so this term, we use this term a lot in seminars, spiritual accountability, right? Three levels of responsibility: emotional, experiential, practical, and spiritual. Spiritual accountability means like realization of how come, or at least to be in the question, how come I may have co-created this situation, maybe an apparently unfortunate, maybe an apparently painful, catastrophic situation. How come I co-created this for the higher principles of life, for deepening my humility, purifying my heart, realizing the nature, the futility of trying to be happy and trying to squeeze some juice out of material nature, the nature of bhakti for the higher principles. So to respond to the context of life consistently, unwaveringly, and spontaneously, with full realization of spiritual accountability. Another way to say it, to quote Lord Chaitanya, Stavara Jangama Dekina Deki Taramurti, Sarvatra Hayanija Ishta Deva Sporti. Lord Chaitanya describes that fully enlightened bhakti yogi realizes Krishna everywhere, in the heart of all living entities. Imagining if we're actually seeing Super Soul in the heart of all living entities, what joy, love, compassion, realizing Krishna in the tree, in happy events, in sad events, beyond the duality of material happiness, realizing Krishna and the opportunity to serve Krishna at every moment. That's enlightenment. That's enlightenment. Yeah, so cultivate the higher taste, and then it's just like, then it's not even like a force, and kind of like, yeah, naturally, and like, yeah, I don't want to make myself sick by sleeping too little and be on some austere spiritual trip or something. But naturally, I want to minimize sleeping and eating to maximize hearing and chanting and service projects for Srila Prabhupada.
The second one that you said realizes Krishna everywhere in the heart of all living entities. Who was it that said that?
I was quoting a verse from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the verse starts Stavra Jangama Deki. It describes Stavra means unmoving living entities, blades of grass, flowers, trees. Jangama means moving living entities, animals, insects, and human beings. So to realize Krishna in all living entities, not just theoretically. And so Lord Chaitanya says, yeah, that's the realized vision of the Uttama Adhikari. We can see like the English word ultimate comes from the Sanskrit Uttama. That's the one who's realizing Krishna everywhere, including in the apparently unfortunate events of the material context. To use other analogies that we borrow from Srila Prabhupada, to spontaneously, enthusiastically respond in kitten consciousness, just like whatever's happening, the jaws of the cat represent death and its accompanying friends. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Dosha, Nudarshana, birth, death, old age, disease. And so rat, just like the experience of the rat in the jaws of the cat, it's a nightmare, it's horrific, it's terrifying. Same jaws of the cat, all those catastrophes, birth, death, old age, disease. The kitten, what's the experience of the kitten in the jaws of the cat? Sheltered, loved, nurtured, strong, like that, protected. So the fully enlightened devotee is responding to every situation with deepened enthusiasm to serve Krishna, and that's real safety. Gabor Mate, right? We've been quoting him a lot recently. Safety is not the absence of threat, it's the presence of connection. My take on that, ultimately that means connection with self and connection with the very source of self. Just like Brahma was not feeling safe. He's in this very, whoa, this is a scary situation. And then he connects with the very source of his existence. That's safety. And so to have such deep realization and to be so free from distraction. It is said, I think this is a Viktor Frankl quote, something to the effect of, yeah, when one's not dedicated to a higher purpose in life, then one distracts himself with pleasure, material pleasures. Now, it's not that in Bhakti Yoga we're against material pleasures, but it's like we're committed to do service. And in the course of service, sometimes the senses will be gratified, and sometimes it'll be too hot or too cold. Sometimes we'll be honored. Sometimes we'll be insulted. Whatever. We just continue on with our service. Yeah. So that's a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya's teachings to Sanatan Goswami in the Madhya Lila. Thank you, Valerie. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.